Yo, what's up guys? I'm Drown Potato and today we're going to be reviewing the AK-101 on Tarkov. This here is my expensive build. It's got 57 ergo, 42 vertical recoil and 124 horizontal recoil with a 991 muzzle velocity. This here is probably my number one go-to 5.56 gun. I highly rate it over the M4. Okay, so this here is the AK-101 fully built in my expensive version of it. Obviously, the price overall is going to differ depending on what level your traders are and what you have access to, depending on what you can get on the flea market and everything like that at the time. So I'm going to start off by quickly stripping down the weapon to its bares, and then we're going to rebuild it from there with you guys. Okay, now the weapon's stripped down to nothing. The first thing that we're going to do is going to go chuck the gas block on. I find that the Troy FLR works the best. We're going to go chuck that straight on there. All right, now we're going to work our way from the top, back, down, and around until we end with the muzzle. So the next thing would be the receiver. We just chuck the bastion on top of it, nice and easy. We're not going to bother putting a sight on it because sight is just down to personal preference, obviously. Whatever you think that the gun is good for. I believe that this gun here is good in every single situation that you can come across. It's good for close range, good for medium range, works well at long range because of its muzzle velocity. All right, we're going to go chuck the CSS on the bolt. Then we come to the back and we want the PT74M. And then from there, we go and chuck the PT3 on. Pistol grip, it's not too important. All this is going to do is change how much ergo you're receiving at the end of the day. I like to try and maximize mine, so I'm going to stick the AGS on it. Magazine, doesn't really matter. There's not too much difference between these. Just go off the price of them at the time if you really worry about it. I always use the C10s because they have a slight buff. Then we come down here. We're going to stick our foregrip on. You can use the RK2 if you want to maximize your recoil control and lower your ergo a little bit. Honestly, it's not that bad, but I do tend to use the SE5 more. Okay, now we're at the front of the gun. We always want this on the right-hand side, so make sure you're putting on the right-hand side. That way there, it's not going to block any of your view. And as usual, we're going to go with the DBAL. So that way there, if we need a flashlight, we've got a flashlight. If we need a laser, we've got a laser. If we want to run a red light, we've got our red light. All right, now to the front of the gun, the muzzle. All right, the first thing we want to do on this build is chuck the CNC on. This is going to allow us a larger variety of muzzle attachments on the front. And just like our other 5.56 guns, we're going to go stick the ASR on it. And then from there, on top of that, goes the Seeker. Alright, and this is your final build. Depending on how you plan on running the gun, take it to woods, you want long range. Going to factory, you obviously want close range. If you plan on running interchange, probably get a Monstrum or something like that. Something that works a little bit closer, something that works a bit further away. For me, I'm just going to chuck the XPS3 on it. And then boom. That there is my final build. Okay, now here's the price list. I believe I might already have one or two things inside my stash. So it's not 100% accurate. But I believe you're looking at about 200 to 220,000 rubles to get the gun built while already owning the AK-101, which you can pick up from 40k, I believe, from Mechanic. All right, budget build time. Obviously, you still got to accumulate the 40,000 for the gun itself. But this here probably costs you about 80k. It's very simple, very straightforward. You can throw it together in 2 seconds. Here's the parts list. It's got 49 ergo, 46 vertical, and 136 horizontal. There's not that much difference in this versus the expensive build, but the expensive build obviously would be preferable in most situations. There's a couple of more things you can do to the gun just to up ergo or lower recoil depending on how you want it, like chucking the CSS on it. You could just simply change the stock and keep the rest of this going. It's all personal preference at the end of the day, and you need to find what works for you. this here is what I'm finding works for me. On this, we don't actually have a light or anything like that. You chuck one on it, no worries at all. I'm just trying to make this as cheap as I can because it's something that I want to be able to throw together and just rush people with and not really have to worry about losing my gun at all. Okay, and here's the parts off the flea market. Got to remember, obviously, my stuff might differ to your stuff because I can get all of this from the traders, as you might not be able to. Okay, so when it comes to the AK-74 thread type JMAC or RRD-4C muzzle attachment, that there is going to cost you about 50 to 60,000 ruples if you have to buy it off somebody and not able to get it off the vendor itself. You need to keep that in mind when you're building these, just to make sure that you're not overspending and wondering why the budget build is costing you more than an arm and a leg when you could just build the expensive one and it's basically going to cost the same at the end of the day. This here is basically half the price. It drops down to 100k buying these items here, and the gun's going to work just as good essentially. It might obviously have its different little moments. Like I probably wouldn't be using this one as much at range just because the recoil is that little bit higher. But it's still going to be just as effective and work as well in most situations. Okay, now we're going to quickly test out the weapons. We're going to show single fire and then full auto on both the weapons, just so you can see the difference in them. Alright, so that's the expensive version, and that's not me trying to control the recoil at all. That's just me letting it do its thing. We'll jump straight over to the budget build here. Obviously, this weapon is loud. It's not quiet. Alright, so that's the budget one. By the end of the spray, I did kind of have to correct it because it pulled up to the left and then went slightly back down, but it never corrected back to the right. So I had to correct it myself to be back onto target. But as you can see, there's not much difference really in the two weapons. Well, that's going to be it from this guide, guys. I hope you enjoyed. If you want to get one of these builds, down in the description below will be a link to the Discord. All builds are saved inside there. So feel free to jump in there and check it out. Or jump into stream and ask me, and I can show you on stream. Hope you guys enjoy the rest of the day, evening, night, afternoon. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.